Some names are hard to forget, not because they made the world better, but because of the pain and fear they left behind. Two of those names are Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán and Pablo Escobar. These men didn't just sell drugs, they ran billion-dollar empires, controlled entire regions, and left behind thousands of deaths. But who were they before the power? What made them rise from poor kids to two of the most feared men on earth? And why does their story still matter today, even after they're gone? In this episode of the Narco Files, we'll dive into their lives, from their early struggles to their darkest crimes, and from the height of their power to their final fall. You'll see how much they had in common, and where their paths were completely different. Were they monsters? Were they masterminds? Or something in between? Let's find out. And if you enjoy deep stories like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the Narco Files, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. A brutal beginning. Back in 2006, high up in the Sinaloa mountains of Mexico, El Chapo was given a brutal gift: two men from the rival Los Zetas cartel. Instead of just getting rid of them quickly, El Chapo picked up a stick and beat them so badly that their bones broke. One witness later said the men looked like lifeless ragdolls. But it didn't stop there. Their broken bodies were tied to ATVs and taken to a big fire. El Chapo pulled out his gun, said some nasty things about their mothers, and shot them. After that, he told his men to burn the bodies until nothing was left. "I don't want any bones to remain," he said. That moment showed exactly what kind of man El Chapo was: cold, cruel, and someone who ruled with fear. Pablo Escobar's deadly orders. Now let's go back to the 1980s in Colombia. One day, a woman was getting off a bus. She was the mother of one of Pablo Escobar's close friends. But the bus driver didn't notice she hadn't fully stepped down. He drove off too soon, and she fell to the ground and died. Pablo Escobar, known as the King of Coke, was angry, very angry. To him, it didn't matter that it was an accident. He told his trusted hitman, a man named Jairo Velasquez, also known as Popeye, to take care of it. Popeye later said, "I found the driver and killed him. I didn't feel anything." This story, like El Chapo's, shows just how dangerous and unforgiving these men were. Even if you made a mistake by accident, there was no second chance. Two different paths, same destination. El Chapo and Escobar lived in different times and places, but their stories were a lot alike. Both came from poor families and built drug empires that made them rich and feared. But they also had big differences in how they operated. Let's take a closer look at their lives. The rise of El Chapo, humble beginnings. Joaquín Archivaldo Guzmán Lora, known as El Chapo, was born on April 4, 1957, in a poor village in Sinaloa, Mexico. People called him El Chapo, meaning shorty, because he was small in height. He came from a large family that struggled to survive. His father worked as a cattle rancher, but the money wasn't enough. To help out, young El Chapo sold oranges and later quit school to work full-time with his dad. At just 15 years old, he started selling marijuana to support the family. By the time he was 20, he had already joined the drug world, entering the cartel world. In his early days, El Chapo worked for Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, one of Mexico's most powerful drug lords, known as El Padrino, or the Godfather. Gallardo brought many cartels together to send large amounts of cocaine into the U.S. El Chapo later worked under Héctor El Güero Palma, another big name in the cartel world. Palma trusted him because El Chapo was loyal and never afraid to get violent. If someone lost a shipment or made a mistake, El Chapo didn't think twice. He used deadly force to send a message. When Gallardo was arrested, everything fell apart in the drug world. Different cartels started fighting for control of the best drug routes to the U.S. The violence got out of hand. People were tortured, cut to pieces, and killed in awful ways. It was pure chaos. Then in 1995, Palma was also arrested. That's when El Chapo stepped up and took charge of the Sinaloa cartel. He was only 38, but he quickly made it one of the strongest cartels in Mexico. Pablo Escobar, the original king. Early life. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born on December 1, 1949, in a small town close to Medellin, Colombia. His mother was a school teacher, and his father worked as a cattle farmer, just like El Chapo's dad. Pablo grew up in a big family, but they were not as poor as El Chapo's family. As a teenager, Pablo got into small crimes. He was often around drugs like marijuana and cocaine and quickly saw how much money the drug trade could bring. First step into crime. In his early 20s, Pablo started working with local criminals. He once kidnapped a businessman, and even though the family paid the ransom, Pablo had him killed. After that, he focused on the drug that would make him rich, cocaine. At the time, many Americans were moving away from marijuana and LSD, and cocaine was becoming very popular. Pablo bought cheap coca leaves, turned them into paste, and sold it to U.S. dealers for huge profits. By age 26, he had already made around $3 million, about $15 million in today's money. The cocaine empire. Escobar saw the huge profits and didn't stop. At that time, there weren't many drug cartels, so he built one of the first. He ran the whole operation, from making the drugs to getting them into the U.S. and selling them. Unlike El Chapo, Escobar didn't have to kill as many people because he had fewer enemies and more control in Colombia. At one point, he was sending 15 tons of cocaine into the U.S. every single day. His cartel made about $26 billion a year. Forbes even listed him as one of the world's richest men, worth $30 billion. Different styles, same outcome. El Chapo's methods. El Chapo was known for being extremely violent and for keeping a tight grip on everything. He didn't just deal with cocaine, he also started making meth. That gave him more control since he didn't need to rely on Colombian suppliers. Meth was cheap to make and easy to sell in the U.S., so it became a big part of his business. El Chapo had power everywhere. He paid off politicians, police officers, and even prison guards. In 2001, he escaped from prison, reportedly by spending $2.5 million in bribes. Even when he was caught, he always found a way to escape, until the last time. During his rule, violence in Mexico got much worse. Innocent people, even kids, were often caught in the middle. Some say he was even protected for a while by the DEA because he gave up other cartel leaders. Escobar's tactics. Escobar was cruel, but he was also smart. He used a simple rule, plata o plomo, which means silver or lead. In other words, take the bribe or take a bullet. It worked. He killed thousands, including judges, lawyers, and even a man running for president. One time, he even had a plane blown up, killing over 100 people. But at the same time, he gave a lot to the poor. He built schools, hospitals, and homes. So many people saw him as a Robin Hood. He controlled the drug world so well that he didn't have as many rivals as El Chapo. His cartel was better organized, and there were fewer fights over territory. The fall. Escobar's end. Escobar was killed by Colombian forces in 1993 when he was 44 years old. Even after all the violence he caused, about 25,000 people showed up to his funeral. To many, he had become a symbol of power, money, and rebellion. But his death didn't stop the drug trade. The Cali cartel and others quickly took over. While violence in Medellin went down, cocaine kept moving into the U.S. and other countries. The business was just too big and too profitable to end. El Chapo's capture. El Chapo was finally caught in 2014 at the age of 56. The U.S. had spent years and billions of dollars trying to find him. But when they did, his money had disappeared. No one really knows where it went. Even with all that effort, the Sinaloa cartel didn't fall. It's still one of the biggest drug groups in the world. New leaders stepped in, and now they're fighting with powerful enemies like the Jalisco New Generation cartel. In 2019, Mexico had its highest murder rate ever, over 34,000 deaths. In March 2020 alone, the country saw a record number of killings. The drug war continues. What do we learn from these two? People often ask, why compare El Chapo and Escobar? The answer is simple. It helps us see that the drug war never truly ends. One drug lord falls, and another one takes his place. It's not just about one man, it's about a broken system. Escobar may be gone, but he started it all. He laid the groundwork. El Chapo came after him, but he was just one big piece in a much larger game. The money still flows, the violence continues, and people still want drugs. As long as there's profit, there will always be another Chapo, another Escobar, another tragedy. Final thoughts. El Chapo and Pablo Escobar weren't just drug lords. They were symbols of a world filled with violence, fear, and power. They lived in different countries and different times, but both left behind deep scars. Their stories go beyond crime. They're also about poverty, broken systems, and a drug problem that never seems to go away. Even now, years later, their names still have power. Their shadows still hang over the drug world. So, what can we learn from all this? Can the drug war ever really end? Or will someone else always rise to take their place? Thanks for watching the Narco Files. If you found this story interesting, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell, because there are many more stories the world has forgotten, but we're here to tell them. See you in the next one.